The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline, of Phoenix Suns podcast, and Sam, welcome to Phoenix. How you doing?
Thank you, sir. It feels very good to be here. It's a little weird every time we do this, and I have to look you in the eyes.
You don't have to.
I know all of your secrets. There's so many secrets that
That's
one
true.
learns by temporarily cohabitating with Mike V. Hill. I could put you on blast. That might have to be saved for the Patreon podcast. But it's been really good to be here. It's obviously a little bit weird.
Explain what you're talking about. Some people don't know.
What do you mean?
You're here in Phoenix.
Oh, I'm here in Phoenix. Yeah, we just got done with the win over the Toronto Raptors. And I would love to take credit for it, except for the fact that we were also at the game last night against, who was that
Milwaukee.
against? Milwaukee. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. To where there were a surprising number of Milwaukee Bucks fans in attendance.
Yeah, we were in the cheap seats yesterday too. I think a lot of times you get surrounded by some of the fans of the other teams, and
Yeah.
today we got to sit. I mean, first row. We were literally first row, not
courtside,
but we were first row today, and I'm really grateful that today was the first row and not the Milwaukee
game.
infuriating Milwaukee Bucks game. But yeah, we got to see this one.
I think it's important when you go, like I'm here in Phoenix this week. I'm just here this week, and this is not my first time here anymore by any means. But every time I come out here, I want to give myself like a variety of game viewing experiences. So I think you learn something from being in the 200s, and I think you also similarly learn something from being up close. You really view the physicality. We were close to the Suns bench tonight, and you really view the physicality of the game in a different way. The stuff like, there's so much we could talk about tonight. Tonight was really a good win, but to use that as a segue, the guy I would want to talk about first is you watch Jordan Goodwin up close. Like, those are the guys you watch when you're sitting up close within like the first 5, 6, 7 rows, and the physicality just like comes off the page. Like, it just jumps out to you, and you kind of realize how much, actually, to be honest, you realize how much he's getting away with in a lot of these plays. So yeah, I mean, top down, this was a great performance for the Suns, though, from Book and Jalen to pretty much all the role players.
Yeah, we were on the Raptors side in the first half, watching the Raptors play offense on the side that we were on. The first possession I saw where Jordan Goodwin was matched up against Brandon Ingram, the first thing I thought is, how do the refs even know what to call and what not to call? Because Jordan Goodwin was just all over him and so physical, and there's so much happening. And really, they let a lot go in that first quarter as well in the Raptors game, and then they started, tightening up the whistle a little bit later in the game. But Jordan Goodwin played really, really well defensively when he was completely outmatched by size. You were at the last Raptors game. Brandon Ingram kind of killed the Suns.
He did. Yeah, I was in Toronto a couple weeks ago when that game happened too. He destroyed us. He had 30
and he only
points.
had 6 points in this one. He was 3 for 10, and it was mostly Jordan Goodwin guarding him for the whole entire game.
And frankly, like, my expectations
5 turnovers too.
Yeah, my expectations for this game were pretty low already, just by virtue of Book had a really bad game against Milwaukee. Like, we can't shy away from that conversation. He shot 4 of 17 last night against Milwaukee, and for them to come out 24 hours later, maybe questioning, is Book all right? Is he moving all right? And then also having the same exact starting lineup where you're starting 4 guards. My expectations for this game were kind of in the gutter. And I was kind of already ready to be frustrated with Jordan Ott a little bit at keeping Goodwin in the starting lineup over Rasheer Fleming, who I think, possibly you could say kind of earned that spot at this point. You could make an argument.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Goodwin, he just came out and he had an absolutely excellent game. Rasheer did too. Like I said, it was top down awesome performance.
It really was. I found watching. I loved sitting close to NBA games in general. Like, I know that it's very, Bill Simmons-y say you have to see something in person to really experience it, but it is true about NBA games. And being in the building is always fun regardless of where you sit. But when you're up close, you realize how physical they are, one, how huge they are, two, and how fast they are, three. And in this game, we kind of experienced all of that. The Raptors are just a massive team across the board, just a bunch of tall, long guys. And then you see how difficult NBA defenses have become as well. What feels like a lot of space when you're up close, they make it up in an instant. And it really doesn't, it's not as much space as you feel like it's going to be.
And just when you have to like swivel or swing your head back and forth, like watching a defense rotate on an X out, like a concept that has only existed in like the last 10 or 15 years since like the 3-point revolution really took hold, stuff that just didn't happen in the 80s or 90s, frankly, or even the 2000s. That's when you realize how fast the game is now. Not to mention like where some of the non-contact injuries come into play and stuff like that. But the Suns defense was so connected tonight. Actually, I would just say like if we were going to start anywhere with them too, the Raptors had 19 turnovers. And this was the first time in a while. I don't have my laptop in front of me. Yeah. I will be honest. Yeah. So I'm reading stats off a box score and I'm feeling a little bit naked in a way that I'm not usually. But this felt like the first game in a little while for me where the Suns were really putting a defensive imprint on the game in terms of their ability to turn the other team over and create easy offense for themselves. And no surprise, that was the first time in a while that they were able to get to 120 points and that we weren't talking about another game. And we're going to talk about, by the way, don't worry, Milwaukee and all the fourth quarter stuff.
The longest losing streak of the season.
But there's a reason why we weren't going into the fourth quarter and talking about there's 5 minutes left and the Suns have 98 points, which has kind of been the case a lot recently.
Yeah, the defense actually has, even in the losing streak, the defense has been relatively good. So many of those games ended with hilarious scores, 108-105 against Milwaukee, 101-100 against San Antonio. Boston ended up scoring a lot. Toronto scored a lot. Minnesota, 116-104. So really it was just the last two games where the defense kind of clicked. But they did it again today. They held the Raptors to under 100 points. But you're right. It really was the offense kind of clicking for it to work. And I think really it starts with Devin Booker. In the Milwaukee game, we were there too right early. We went to both of these games relatively early, like an hour before the game started. So we got to watch them warm up. We got to see the process of what it takes for them to get game ready. And from the moment we got there, I looked at you and said, Booker was looking weird. Like he's walking weird. His warm-up is weird. He's only standing there shooting three-pointers. He's not. I've been to 5 or 6 games so far this season, and it just stood out to me in a way that felt a little bit weird. And then he moved weird when the game started. Really surprising that he came into this game. He played 31 minutes. He had 25 points. 6 assists, only 2 turnovers, and was plus 32 in this game. And, regardless of how all the other fourth quarters have gone, which we'll talk about, like you said, this team doesn't really work when they're this injured unless Devin Booker plays really well.
Of course, yeah.
And thank God he did it in this one because I could not stand. It was already rock bottom, right? 5 losses in a row was already rock bottom. But if they lost again to Toronto at home on the second night of a back-to-back, that would just be a new low for the season.
It would have been. I mean, yeah. So five-game losing streak is what they snapped, right? So that already was the longest losing streak of the season.
The previous longest losing streak of the season was they went 1-4 or 1-5 in their first 6 games of the season.
Yeah.
So they won the first game of the season. They lost 4 in a row. 4 in a row. So and now they lost 5 in a row. So it's the longest one, and it would have extended even further.
All of these other role players, they all played their part tonight in different ways. They were grabbing offensive rebounds. They were turning the Raptors over, but just none of it works without like a palatable half-court offense, right? And a palatable half-court offense comes from Devin Booker and Jalen Green. There's no one else. Well, a little bit of Colin Gillespie too, I suppose.
He was awesome in this
with some
game.
Pull-up threes.
Yeah.
But like those are the guys keeping the entire Suns offense afloat. I love the way Oso Ighodaro has been playing as of late, and actually he's gotten over 10 points a couple times as of late. But like we've talked about the way you don't have Dillon Brooks, so you don't have that extra difficult shot maker. You don't have Mark Williams, so you don't have that potential inside presence at the rim.
Finishing,
Yeah, so in terms of how can you build a half-court offense, Book and Jalen need to make shots, or else like the only way you can win a game is to turn a team over 15 or 20 times. And in a game where Book shot 4 for 17 against Milwaukee, it's so concerning because it's like we just don't have a chance. Going into this game, I really felt like he was moving weirdly last night, and so for him to come out 24 hours later and look so good was kind of surprising to me. Also, we should talk about, Book is motivated maybe to, if he is dealing with anything right now, ankle or knee or what have you. He's motivated to finish out the season for a couple of reasons. One, because the Suns are obviously kind of still vying for positioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
kind of.
It feels like they're kind of locked in to 7th seed, but yeah.
You
never know.
Book would never admit that this is the reason that he would maybe play through an injury, right? So this is me just putting on a pure speculative hat. But it's something that you and I have wondered about, and people have gone in the Discord about the 65-game rule for All-NBA eligibility. For those who don't know, Devin Booker, if he plays out the rest of the season every single game, he'll finish at 66 games. So he would be theoretically, under that rule, eligible for All-NBA. The issue is there is an additional rule in the fine print that says you need to play at least 20 minutes in a game that we're not 100% sure about. This is what we've gone back and forth on. I would really like to get some clarification from someone at the league office, someone in Secaucus, New Jersey.
You're closer to that than me. So.
Yeah, no, I know. So anyway, Book played.
Drive down there and bang on the window. Tell me about the 20-minute rule.
So Book has played less than 20 minutes twice this season, both times because of an injury. And the question is, if he plays out every game from now until the end of the season, does that mean he played 66 games, which he literally did? Or, for all intents and purposes, does the way the NBA see it is he played 64 games, in which case he wouldn't be eligible?
Yeah.
And if he is eligible, I think he's absolutely all NBA third team. Mm-hmm. And I also think if he's ruled as ineligible, that's a disaster of a rule.
Yeah.
The 20-minute one, I mean, just doesn't make any sense. I can't really think of like what even the thought is behind that.
These things are important to you. Like that you follow his career accolades, the highlights. They're important to him too. Don't get me wrong, they're definitely important to him. I think about it a little bit less because I do feel like no matter what happens, Devin Booker is not going to get the entire credit that he likely deserves for compared to what he means to the Phoenix Suns fan base and to the city of Phoenix. So in some ways, like I just anticipate that the accolades are not going to match his total impact and what he did for here. But getting on those All-NBA teams, getting on those All-Star teams, those are the things that help his chances of getting into the Hall of Fame. But ultimately, I think he's going to have a resume that'll get him there regardless, especially with just the amount of scoring that he has. But yeah, this was a game where he was really, really impressive, plus 32. But you mentioned, by the way, the offense. Devin Booker and Jalen Green are really important for the offense. And you mentioned Colin Gillespie, and I do want to just talk about a contrast between those guys. Colin Gillespie, very good at creating three-point shots for himself. Not very good at creating for others because he doesn't penetrate with any threat of scoring. He doesn't score at the rim. Everything that he does is jump shots, and most of them are 15 to 16 feet out, and then three-pointers that go all the way to 30 feet out. So
also
he's not
smaller.
He's not, garnering that attention to him in the middle and then kicking it out to an open three-pointer. Right. It's not to say he never does that. He obviously does do that occasionally. In fact, he had a couple passes like that today. But if you compare that to the attention that Devin Booker and Jalen Green, who had 7 assists today, doing some of this, that is just a different kind of attention because they're so intent on driving and they're much, much, much better at finishing and exploding once they actually get to the rim. Colin Gillespie is such a threat to score from the outside, so there is some gravity within that, but it's not the type of gravity that creates three-point shots for other guys. So it's really important for a team that's so three-point reliant, which, by the way, they got a lot at the rim today, which is one of the reasons they won. But for a team that's so three-point reliant, it's really important for Devin Booker and Jalen Green to work in the way that they did. And Jalen, by the way, 20 points, 8 for 15 in this game, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, only 2 turnovers, 2 on his 7 assists, and, made some really difficult shots. And with him, like, it's tough. It's tough because, like, so often
results over process.
Yeah, so
game
often
for Jalen Green a little bit.
That is true about the Stars, right? That is true about the Stars.
It's results over process.
They're allowed to take really bad shots because if they go in, then they're no longer bad shots. But he's not at a star level so far this season, and he really has not been at a star level throughout his career. But like, he is one of those players where it's like, well, what if he can get there? What if there is a possibility of him becoming a star level guard? And are those shots, eventually good shots for him? And in this game, 1 game sample size here, they were good shots, but they're not always.
I'll tell you this much about Jalen Green. It would be a lot more palatable letting him take whatever he wants in any game situation. If the 7 assists he had tonight, you could kind of count on that as more of a daily production from him. Because I think it's difficult when you have a guy who's kind of living or dying by difficult shot making and is only really looking to create for himself. We've seen a lot of players in that sort of archetype. As their careers tend to move on, they kind of somewhat often fall into a sixth man role. Mm-hmm. For Jalen to survive as a real number 2 star in the NBA, which I hope he can be, we need to see games like this where it really was when I say 2-level impact offensively, I just mean he's creating for himself and he's creating for others. And yeah, we saw it. The shots were really difficult, and tonight they went in. And it's good to know that he's capable of making these, because the team's not going to win if he doesn't.
Yeah, the passing is really important for him, and it's not just about the keeping his head up and actually looking for guys when he drives, or especially in transition. I think he had a couple plays tonight where his head was up in transition in a way that it hasn't been, especially in that Milwaukee game, by the way. But it's also about not turning the ball over, because even when he does kind of have his head up, sometimes the passes are not quite on the money. I think Oso is such a good example where Oso, look, he does get turnovers, but when his passes hit somebody, they hit somebody right in the shooting pocket and they're able to go up directly with the shot. Whereas Jalen's passes, they're sometimes a little bit off. They're sometimes tipped, or they're not quite there. They're not quite clean. Tonight they were, but they have to be crisp. They have to be fast, and he has to have his head up. And it's tough because there's always a balance with these guys. We need them to score, right? And there's somebody in their heads probably telling them to score, whether it be their teammates or whether it be the coaching staff or whatever it is. But we also need them to be the guys creating for other guys. And,
right.
It does take time. Booker got so much better at reading defenses. And I think Chris Paul even helped Booker a little bit. And Jalen, it takes time for guys to go get it. Jalen's not quite there, but, this is the type of thing that if he can do this on a more daily basis, he's never done it. In fact, we looked up his career high in assists today because we were curious I think he had 5 in the first half.
Mm-hmm. I would have never thought that Jalen Green had 13 assists in an NBA game, but he did technically do it as a Houston Rocket. And I'm not coming anywhere close to expecting that of him. But if he could get to a point where he gives you 20 points and he also gives you five and a half assists a game.
As a secondary creator, 5 assists is good.
Yeah.
That's like Julius Randle or whatever. Yeah, that's like, as it is, right? He's averaging about 5.
Has Julius Randle been on your mind lately?
Yeah, he killed the Suns recently, so,
yeah.
5 assists would be very good, especially if he can keep the turnovers down.
So another big thing with Jalen, I have a feeling this will come back up again when we talk about fourth quarter struggles. As we've watched him up close the past 2 games, one conversation you and I were having was the concept of keeping everything fast, right? And obviously the coaches are in his ear about that, but Jalen is such a capable space creator. Once you create the space, you have to use the space. And that's something that he's still learning, right? Mm-hmm. The ball, he can have the ball on a string. He can create the space. And then if you watch Jalen from possession to possession, sometimes he will create the space. And the most frustrating thing about watching him is he then hesitates.
Yeah, and he goes the opposite direction all of a sudden.
Exactly. Yeah. Rather than picking the right moment to, okay, now I've created space. Now it's time to penetrate and then create for myself or someone else. Exactly. He goes the other direction and he holds on to the ball another 3 or 4 seconds when he shouldn't. And that's part of how the offense bogs down in these fourth quarters. But it's not just the fourth quarter. It can be all game with him. So, I'm sure that's something that Devin Booker got better at throughout his career as well. But those are kind of just like identifying the main areas of improvement for Jalen at this point is how do we get to the point where it's great if he can hit difficult shots, but can we sharpen up the process for him?
Use the screens too. Like I know there's some isolation scoring that he's going to have to do, right? Late in the shot clock, there are things that happen. They get the right kind of switch. You want him to do a little bit of it. Early in the shot clock, there was one play against Milwaukee. For example, he was in the corner. Oso Ighodaro was at the wing. he could have just pitched it to Oso and then full sprinted into the handoff the way Colin Gillespie does. And instead, he just dribbles it to the top of the key and then starts isolating. And Oso is in no man's land as a guy who's no threat to score.
Right.
If he's not screening, he's not valuable in that scenario. And you have to trust your teammates. You have to use them to create that space. Oso is a great screener. He's on the floor to do that kind of thing. Not to mention the chemistry they've been building with that handoff where they can fake the handoff and then pass it to a cut, where Jalen Green is already full speed off the ball. Now he's catching it and getting fouled half the time. So there's just things he has to do where it simplifies the game for him ultimately, but he has to be able to read the offense. And I think ultimately, I hate to say it this way, but that's where the struggle is. He's not quick enough at reading what the defense is giving him and then reacting to that. And I guess the question with him is, and this is like the ultimate question of the long-term impact of what Jalen Green can be, is how much can a player improve at that kind of thing,
right,
if they haven't had a ton of improvement over the course of their career? I think that guys do improve at that.
I do.
Right? But for him, there's not this huge track record of it. So it's really difficult to know for sure how much of it was Houston, how much of it was Silas or Ime, and then how much of it can be improved now. We really still are on a small sample size of the Jalen Green experience.
And also
15 games or so.
Right. How much of it can continue to be improved by insulating him within the right environment. So Oso comes a long way already, the way that any guard on this team, but obviously Jalen and Colin and all of them are able to play off of Oso compared to when Malawach is in there, and who, by the way, has played very well lately, and we'll talk about him. But as soon as Malawach comes in there, that's when the traps start coming out from the defense, right? It's just a completely different defensive coverage that you're going to see when you're coming around a screen. So having a center who moves the ball side to side and then insulating them with the right spacing. Look, part of the reason the Suns offense has been struggling lately is because Jordan Goodwin and Ryan Dunn and Rasheer Fleming, like these guys have all improved to the point where they can kind of space the floor, and that's awesome. They're all shaky shooters on a good day. That's just what they are, and so it's going to be a lot more difficult for the guards to create in those circumstances.
If you care about coffee and how it's made, check out Alchemy Roast. They roast in small batches and source their beans responsibly, focusing on flavor instead of mass production. The result is coffee that's balanced, well-developed, and easy to drink, whether you brew at home every day or just want something better than grocery store coffee. You can order online at alchemyroaster.com, and if you use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. Go now to alchemyroaster.com, my favorite coffee, and use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout. Get 10% off, support a local Phoenix business, and get the best coffee you can buy.
I want to talk about some other guys here. Number one in minutes in this game, Jalen Green with 30. Or no, Devin Booker with 31. Jalen Green with 30. Number three.
Oh my God, I just noticed that.
Rasheer Fleming with 29 minutes in this game. He finished with 11 points. He was 4 for 8, had 7 rebounds. 5 of them were offensive rebounds, and he was plus 18 total in this game. He has, in many ways, earned more and more minutes throughout the Suns playing poorly. I think it's one of the only bright spots in that time, which we'll talk about Kaman Malawach too, but I do think Rasheer Fleming deserves the credit to be spoken about first.
I think it's clear at this point, and I think this has always been the case this season, that Rasheer is, I think both of them are kind of improving at the same rate, which is really cool, but Rasheer started a step ahead of Malawach, and he's still a step ahead of Malawach in terms of what he's capable of contributing right now. He played great tonight. The reason I wanted him to start tonight, going back to the Milwaukee game, again, Jordan Goodwin played good tonight too. So, like, I'm not going to say anything against Goody, but I have felt that Rasheer provides way more size while also proving himself as arguably a more capable shooter than Goody, or at least a comparable shooter than Goody lately. And he's also a guy who can slip screens, catch in the middle of the floor. It's something he's only done a couple of times, but I think the opportunity is just there for him to play a lot more like a natural power forward. And so that's why I was hoping to see him start tonight. Ott still doesn't want to do it. I understand. But he played 29 minutes. He had 11 points, all those offensive rebounds. He's a defensive menace. He's so cool, man. He's
got the fro now, too.
He's got the fro.
It looks great.
He looks like, they call him the spirit of Josh Jackson in Discord, but good.
Yeah. He's got the number 20.
Because he's got
fro,
number 20 in the fro. There was one play, I don't remember who they blocked, but it was like he and Ryan Dunn converged on a guy at the same time.
And Bouye, I think all three of them were there. Yeah,
and went for the block. Ryan Dunn got the block, but it was like if Ryan Dunn didn't have a hand on it, Rasheer Fleming would have blocked it. Both of them. And someone actually posted in our Discord too that when Ryan Dunn and Rasheer Fleming play together, which is like a 100-minute sample size, but that net rating is good.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't necessarily expect that net rating to be good for two guys who are considered very spotty three-point shooters, but both of them are doing just well enough.
I mean, it's hard to call Rasheer Fleming a spotty three-point shooter so far.
I think
he's probably shooting 36, 37.
He's shooting, I think, 36 on the season. I think above the break, we still have very little sample size of him making those.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a corner shooter.
So it's like you can put
Dunn's a corner shooter.
You can put Ryan Dunn in one corner. You can put Rasheer Fleming in the other corner. But as soon as one of those guys has to relocate on a play, you're taking guys who maybe they're 36, 37% of the corner. Now they're 28% above the break, and the offense sort of breaks down. You just wouldn't expect it to all work together, and the fact that it has is so encouraging.
This team and Jordan Ott and what he expects of them, once again, very, very, very simple. If you're a role player, to know what is expected to get minutes. It's not to say that doing it is simple, but if you're a role player, you're playing around Jalen Green, you're playing around Devin Booker and Dylan Brooks, right? Get offensive rebounds, play tough defense, and make your threes. If you can do those three things, you're going to get minutes. And he's been doing those things. He plays really great defense. He's the biggest guy on the floor for the Suns like half the time because he's like lengthwise, he's probably got a higher standing reach than Oso Ighodaro. We can start there just because his arms are just absurdly long.
Yeah.
And then he's getting offensive rebounds. Once again, he had 5 offensive rebounds in this game. That's a big deal to be out there, to be chasing those rebounds and getting those. And then he's hitting his threes. And do they leave him open? Yeah, they leave him open. Like, he's definitely the most open player on the floor when he's on the floor. But eventually they won't. Eventually they won't if he keeps making them. And then other guys will have space to do their own scoring. And, I was grateful to see him hit a couple more in this game. And I think he's earned more minutes. Jordan Ott, I saw Dwayne tweet it. Jordan Ott said after the game about Rasheer Fleming, he knows he belongs.
That's good.
So often, we've talked about this before, so often when they talk about Rasheer Fleming, these guys, whether it be players or coaches, they're always alluding to his confidence. And I think, there is some low-level confidence for him, confidence issues, if you want to even call them that. I don't want to concern troll here, but I think what they mean is his ceiling is higher than he realizes. I think it's more about his ceiling than anything else.
I don't know Rasheer Fleming personally, so anything I'm about to say is pure speculation. But look, in general, it's really hard to make the NBA. You have to have confidence to make the NBA. Sometimes, though, guys do slip through the cracks a little bit. Rasheer Fleming played at St. Joe's. Mm-hmm. He didn't play at a major college program. Mm-hmm. And he still excelled in that role, but even in college, he played a kind of 3-and-D role where he scored a lot, but he was taking mostly threes and layups. And he wasn't like a number one option, even on a mid-major school in kind of a traditional way. So to jump from that level all the way to the NBA, where suddenly the athletes are so much bigger and so much faster and have really polished on-ball skills when he doesn't necessarily have any of those things, it would not surprise me if it just takes longer for a guy coming from that circumstance specifically, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't really think of a comparable prospect for the Suns who kind of came from like a lowly college team and was just like really good immediately.
Steve Nash.
Steve Nash. Okay, that was 30 years ago, but yeah, that might be who was there in the building tonight, by the way. We sat next to him.
Our good friend Steve. Yeah, we had views on Tom Chambers, Frank Kaminsky. We were like 5 seats away from Tom Chambers. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah. I didn't say anything. I was too shy to say hi.
Yeah.
But anyway, for a guy in Rasheer's particular circumstance, I know if I was in that circumstance, and I'm not an NBA player for a reason, but it would probably take me an extra beat to realize that I belong. So just if he has now come to that realization, all the better for us, because just watching him, it's pretty clear.
It was really awesome to see him play. And by the way, and I want to talk about Kamal Malawach and what he's been doing lately, but I do want to give a shout out before I forget. Ryan Dunn was really good in this game.
I think that's important.
I also thought Ryan Dunn was pretty good in the Milwaukee game.
I think Ryan Dunn might have been our best player. Well, I don't have the box score in front of me, but
12 points, 5 for 8 shooting, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, almost 3 assists, 1 turnover. They called off Devin Booker's shot that was after the buzzer. 3 steals and 1 block, and he was plus 17. He was very, very, very good in this Toronto game, and it's just good to see him starting to put it together a little bit. You know, of course, sometimes it's as simple as he makes half his threes, and then he can stay on the floor a little bit longer because he's making his 3-pointers, and he can actually be a threat. But if he's out there chasing the rebounds like he's been doing, he gets up there, he skies for rebounds, but if he can harass people, he can do what he can do defensively. And then play within the system offensively, because he is one of those guys that in those zoom actions, occasionally he is dribbling out of the corner. Like he kind of has to.
Yeah, he is.
So, Fleming doesn't
here's
do
the thing.
that.
He dribbles out of the corner. That never ends with him really turning the corner and scoring himself. He passes out of it. And so that's why it's difficult. But I just came to a realization. I said at the beginning of this episode, this was the first time in a while that the Suns were really feasting in transition in a way that it feels like they haven't been. Ryan Dunn was an absolutely massive part of that. How many points did he score tonight? 11? 12? He had 12 points in both of these games then. He had 12 points tonight. I believe like 8 or 9 of those were just transition layups and dunks. And this is why, if you're Jordan Ott, I understand that there are spacing concerns and constraints with Ryan Dunn. I would really encourage Jordan Ott. In the next week, he might have some of these guys like Amir Coffey and Haywood Highsmith back.
Maybe Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks is going to get minutes no matter what because he's very good. But after Dylan Brooks, well, he's pretty good. After Dylan Brooks.
For this team, he's been very good.
After Dylan Brooks is this glut of wings where you've got Rasheer Fleming. I don't even know how I would rank them. You've got Rasheer Fleming, Ryan Dunn. Maybe I'd throw Royce in this tier too. And then Haywood Highsmith and Amir Coffey. And obviously,
so you're not including Grayson here.
Grayson's a guard.
We realize he's smaller than. Yeah. Like we saw him standing next to Dylan Brooks today, and he was like
he's a couple inches
shorter in a way that I think they're listed about the same height.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a reason one is like a shooting guard, one's a power forward.
Yeah,
theoretically,
it's Grayson's. I don't know. I wonder how tall he actually is.
Let's say coming up, in theory, knock on wood. Is this wood? This is glass. No. Is this wood?
Yeah.
Is that fake?
Yeah, that's wood.
Okay. Coming up, you've got everything in Mike's apartment is fake, actually.
It's true.
You've got...
It's all resin. I just poured it in.
If Royce and Highsmith and Coffey, those are the big 3 names, okay? If all 3 of those guys are healthy, they are veterans, they understand modern principles, and they can space the floor, it would be very easy for Ott to just say, okay, let's play all these guys. But then you lose a real amount of edge that Ryan Dunn brings. And I think we've really felt that in just the past 2 games of having to play him.
I think like with Highsmith, as an example, sitting right next to us, Haywood Highsmith today, he's just very good at making that extra pass. Mm-hmm. And those types of things, like Ryan, those are like veteran things, right? You find the one final pass that becomes the assist on a play. Ryan's not good at that. And, it's tough. Like, we're going to talk about the fourth quarters next, I'm sure. But, like, those are the types of things that you need in those fourth quarters that could actually lead to winning. And I think that's why it's tough with Ryan. You have the shooting concerns. You have the lack of poise offensively, where he there's a reason when he's coming off of those zoom actions, when he gets one step over the 3-point line, he picks up the ball and looks for somebody to pass it to because he's a little afraid of losing the ball. He's a little afraid of turning it over. He can't quite, attack the rim. And if he does get fouled, it's a coin flip, right? If he's going to make the free throws.
Right. No, yeah, that's a good point.
There's just so much of it in there with him that I understand the concerns with Ryan. Like, you list one of these concerns, he doesn't make a lot of his threes. That's one thing. And then you start listing the rest of them, and you're like, okay, it makes sense that Haywood Highsmith, maybe he's not going to get 3 steals in a game like this, the way Ryan Dunn did, or two really cool dunks.
And if he does, he's not going to get down the court anywhere as fast as Ryan can. Yeah. Like, when that's the beauty of this team. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think Haywood Highsmith has actually played really well since he's joined the Suns. But, like, you see the full potential when Rasheer and Ryan and Malawach are all sprinting fully down the court. you see the fully realized speed and athleticism of like, Brian Gregory's wet dreams. And it's just, I should give Ishbia some credit there too.
Yeah.
But like I'll give
no Bartelstein.
Bartelstein as well. I just like, giving Brian Gregory some props.
Michigan and Michigan State won. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Did they?
I think so.
Okay.
We watched some college basketball this week. You and I.
Yeah,
Can you believe it?
We don't need to go into
Can
that.
you name any of the players we watched? Boozer. We watched Boozer.
We watched Cam Boozer. Yeah, there's one.
There's one. Yeah. That's about all I can remember.
We did not watch Darren Peterson. We watched the dude from Houston. What's the point? Kingston Flemings.
Yeah, we did watch some of him.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what were we talking about?
We were talking about the
It's a lot
Brian
easier.
Gregory's wet dream, I believe is how you
It's actually a lot
easier
easier to get on tangents when
when we're right next to each other. Yeah.
Brian Gregory's wet dreams of athleticism. That's what we're gonna call it.
I'm glad we got back to it.
When you're watching Malawach, God, Malawach is so athletic. Like, he's big, but he actually moves pretty well, and he can sky for some rebounds. I don't know.
Letting him switch a lot in the last few games.
Yeah,
too.
they are, and he can sky for some of these rebounds in a way that I think has not been fully appreciated by people.
Because he doesn't get a lot of them. I mean, truthfully, that's part of the problem. He needs to get more rebounds, and he does, occupy a lot of space. He's not like a DeAndre and standing there watching the rebound, hoping it's coming towards him.
Yeah.
Like, he's getting into a stance, like he's putting his ass on someone, and he's trying to actually box out in those scenarios, and other guys might get the rebounds. So.
We noted when we were watching today's game against Toronto at a certain point in, don't remember if it was the second quarter, I want to say maybe, Toronto went fully small.
They
because
did.
Their normal starting center is Jakob Poeltl, who sometimes plays, sometimes doesn't. Their backup center is Mamu.
Who was not good today.
Who was not good today, but in general has been very good this season, is a switchable 5, a little undersized, can hit a lot of threes. But they also went a few minutes without a 5. And they just played Scotty Barnes at the 5. And I think Jordan Ott, who is very much a modern coach that I respect, a lot of modern coaches, as soon as they see the small ball 5 come out on one side,
And
they just
Fleming's at
say we're matching
Right.
it, and we're going to take whoever our big is, and we don't trust them. It was a big display of confidence, I thought, tonight, that Ott said, I'm leaving Malawach in these minutes, and I thought he did a good job. He did not like Scotty Barnes played him off the floor or anything.
No, in fact, I would say that the Raptors were the first to blink in that scenario. They put Mobo back in.
Yeah.
And they had to actually play, a smaller big. They don't really have a lot of big, huge guys off the bench. It's really just Poeltl. Is there only
It's just
guy.
kind of Poeltl, and then they go kind of more modern. But
Yeah, with Malawach, these, I talked about Fleming as one of the main bright spots even through the losing streak. I think Malawach as well, he really benefits from low expectations, of course. Like, we have low expectations of what he should do during this time, but multiple games in a row, they were good, or they were better than the opposing team when he was on the floor. Like, that was true about Milwaukee. That was true today. Of course, everyone was kind of awesome today. He was plus 19.
you have both box scores up?
No, I don't. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was I think it was plus 7 in Milwaukee. I looked at it recently. So, and look, he's not out there doing a lot, right? Because they don't want him to be. Although he made a 3 today. We got to see a 3. That was fun.
He made a 3, and then he was trusted to take another one. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, Book had a little pick and pop with him in the corner and didn't even hesitate. He passed it right to him in the corner.
And recently, I'm not even going to say they look for him in the middle of the floor, because I still feel like they kind of use him as a last resort.
Teams are baiting them to do it.
They understand
Yeah.
that they need, like, you can't just, if you're getting doubled when Malawach is out there, you can't just dribble your way out of it and just pretend that he doesn't exist. You have to pass to him.
I mean, you're practically at half court by the time you pass it
right.
to him.
But they passed to him a few times, and I
They
think it's worked a few times.
I agree. Yeah.
So, it's baby steps with him in terms of what our expectations are, but statistically he's been pretty good. And
he made a couple passes in the short roll that were not bad too. They're not the quickest passes, but like, he's doing things that I'm like, okay, there's a little bit there.
If he can go out there, he can score at what is, per true shooting or whatever, quote unquote, efficient. And the big thing, if he can play 15 minutes and not commit an offensive foul and not commit 2 or 3 turnovers, that's huge.
Yeah.
We didn't expect him to be able to do that by the end of year 1, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm so locked in. Like, every time he sets a screen now, just like really locked in. I think I probably mentioned it 3 times when we were watching.
I think he's more commonly making contact on screens
He
too.
is. I agree.
In a way that they're not moving screens. So that's really important.
I don't think he had I don't think he had one tonight.
He didn't. No, he didn't. And I don't even know if he had one against Milwaukee either.
He had one foul in this game. Yeah, and I don't think it was an offensive foul. But yeah, it's nice to see him be not a negative. Like, this is where we're at with him, but like, it's nice to see him not be a negative. That's a big deal for him to like just be, not terrible on the floor. So happy to see him. By the way, we got to see CJ Huntley's NBA debut today.
Yes, and first NBA bucket on an assist from maybe Jamari
Bouye, who played well today.
Yeah,
I thought by the way, I looked up Jamari Bouye's stats. I want to give an update on that too. Bouye is shooting, according to Basketball Reference, before tonight's game, so including up to Milwaukee, Bouye is shooting 97% within 3 feet of the rim and 90% in the restricted area before tonight.
There has to be.
And he missed a dunk tonight.
I know. He
missed a dunk tonight, and that literally will bring down his percentage on the season because of how efficient he's been at the rim.
It was an uncontested two-handed dunk
after a steal
that he missed, and I saw Jordan Goodwin mocking him on the bench afterwards, saying, "Why did he bring it behind his head? He should have just Why did
he say that? I wonder if he said that to Jalen Green too a couple of games ago. The game you were at.
No, that's actually true. That's funny that you mentioned that. But that has to be some sort of record. We must be able to look up at some point if like minimum 50 attempts at the rim. What is the highest field goal percentage of all time? It's probably some other center, but then Jamari Bouye's got to be up there.
It's got to be. And he doesn't, of course he takes a lot of layups in transition because he's pretty fast too, but it's not all that. Like, he does that in the half court sometimes. He's one of the few guys that actually occasionally gets layups in the half court.
He's ambidextrous. He can score driving from both sides, and he protects the ball. He can double pump. He did this tonight against, I don't remember if it was Scotty Barnes or one of the other Toronto wings, but he went up with a shot that if Colin Gillespie did it, would have gotten blocked. If Grayson Allen did it would have gotten blocked. But Jamari Bouye went up, brought the ball back down, sort of double pumped and reversed it, and he made it. And it's like, that's just, you can't really teach that.
Yeah,
that's a next level of kind of finesse from a slasher. The big thing for him is just trusting that he even trusts his own 3-point shot, because we've seen him take so many or take so few and make so few threes since he came back from the concussion. So tonight he actually took a few threes. I thought even just that was encouraging to see.
Definitely.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 Show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
Fourth quarters. Let's talk about fourth quarters.
Yeah, let's do some negative stuff.
So they lost 5 games in a row. They lost 5. Let me see. Toronto, the game you were at. Boston, Minnesota, San Antonio, Milwaukee, another game we were at. By the way, I think you're here in Phoenix, I think you're probably 7-2.
My all-time record in Phoenix. This is my 3rd trip to Phoenix in the past 4 or 5 years.
I think you've only seen 2 losses.
And my all-time record in Phoenix is pretty good. I will say that.
I think it's about 7-2. I'm just going off memory, but maybe 8-2 if you've been to 10. We're going to Denver's game, so we're really putting that record on the line against an actual good team and an injured.
We'll be sitting next to Matt Ishbia for that one.
Yeah, that's right, in his suite. Yeah. Because of we have to be really nice to him on the podcast afterwards, so it's going to be tough. Fourth quarter struggles. Let me say this: with who's available, I'm gonna start there. With who's available for this team, who would you have played in the fourth quarter in the last few games? Because we'll start with Devin Booker. He's obviously going to play. Do you play Jalen Green in the fourth quarters for the Suns?
So I will. I reserve the right to make it a case. I know this is a cop out.
No.
I reserve the right, if I'm Jordan Knott, to make it a bit of a case by case basis.
I think you should. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the same 5 guys for all 5 games.
Especially when they're this injured, you kind of have to figure out who's playing well and just play those guys a little bit. Yeah, I agree with that. But to
your point, there's not a perfect answer. Because I would have said Rasheer Fleming, for instance, has to be one of those 5 guys.
Milwaukee,
against Milwaukee, I wanted Rasheer Fleming out there instead of Jordan Goodwin. a couple games prior was at the Minnesota game where Rasheer Fleming was out there and missed both free throws. Just a horrible moment for him, but it's like Ott tried to have him out there. And then it led to like this embarrassing gaffe, and then he wasn't out there against Milwaukee, even though I thought he played really well. In general, who would I have? Booker. Yes, Jalen Green is one of the 5. Yes.
So then you have Colin Gillespie too?
Yes, Gillespie has to be.
You're going 3 guards right off the bat.
Gillespie has to be one of the 5.
Who plays center? It's got to be Oso, right?
Oso has to be one of the 5.
Okay, so then you're talking about who the 5th is.
Probably Rasheer Fleming.
I see. I think
it's
that's
a strange 5. I'll give you that.
I think it's tough, right? Because what we're saying the options are, if we're talking about who's available, what we're saying the options are Jamari Bouye, Rasheer Fleming, Ryan Dunn, or Jordan Goodwin, basically.
Or Jordan Goodwin. It's not going to be Malawach.
It's not going to be Malawach. It's not going to be like Livers.
Not going to be Isaiah Livers.
Yeah. And I don't think it's going to be Bouye because you're playing 3 guards, right? So really your options are between Ryan Dunn, Rasheer Fleming, and Jordan Goodwin. And I think like just for perspective of it all, and I'm not saying that no mistakes were made in these last few games because we'll talk about blame in a second, but just for the perspective of it, those are bad options. All 3 of those are bad options. You're either playing a rookie in Rasheer Fleming who's played maybe 40 games. But
we like all 3 of those players.
Yeah.
We don't want any of them to have to close
not
NBA
in a clutch
games
game.
if you're a playoff team.
Yeah. You can't play. You can't. Ryan Dunn. We talked about it. He can't hit free throws. He struggles at a lot of the stuff. He can't hit 3-pointers. I think playing Jordan Goodwin is the most defensible choice of them because he's been the most reliable and the best of the 3 all season. Now, if you're talking about what a coach does, they have to go with the guys they trust. And I understand why he went with that. The real reason, if we're just looking at the Milwaukee game, which I think was the worst one and the most frustrating of all the losses, the reason they were bad in that game, the reason they lost that game is because Devin Booker, 2 things, couldn't hit a shot himself, 1, at the end of that game. 2, did not trust his teammates to hit shots in those moments. Mm-hmm. He was not giving the ball up to them to try to hit shots. He was forcing it himself and then missing those shots that he was forcing.
Interestingly, is usually a player who, like, almost to a fault, I wouldn't even necessarily say it's a fault, but like we often comment on Book that he's very deferential.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting that he just wasn't against Milwaukee and kind of really kept trying to force it in the fourth quarter, even though he was missing every time.
Yeah, he usually makes those. I mean, that's the real truth of it, is that, at least he makes a couple of them. He had a really rough stretch on a long road trip where they were away from their homes for 2 weeks or whatever. Of course, that's going to happen occasionally throughout the season. That's when teams struggle, or on the long road trips. That's usually when
against
they really
good
struggle.
Teams.
Against good teams. But against Milwaukee, without Giannis, one of the worst teams in the NBA, those are the shots that in a normal season he has made throughout his career time and time again. So, it's hard to get mad at him for taking them. But I think this team, with some of the guys that are on the floor, there is a level of trust that you have to have for them. And a level of trust that also involves giving the ball up. Sometimes it'll get back to him. But after a little bit of more pressure has been placed on the defense, so that maybe it's a little bit easier for him to take that shot. And, I think in these games he didn't do that. For me, it's as simple as the last 5 losses are, if Devin Booker played much better, which he did tonight, they probably would have won. Now, is that the only solution to all of this? No. Another one is they need to get healthy. That's another one that is not that fun to talk about for analysis, but that's the reality of this team. Grayson Allen has been really important to this team all season. Royce O'Neal has been one of the best 3-point shooters in the fourth quarter in the NBA all season. He would have been very helpful for this team. Dillon Brooks is one of the only guys who can create a shot with a lot of pressure, especially against switches, because he's good against switches on the team throughout the entire season. Mark Williams is one of the only guys who can finish at the rim on this team all season. That's a lot of things to be missing for this team. So you're missing all of those guys. It's going to be a struggle to win. And, I think what makes them frustrating is they were leading in all of these games.
Late
in the game.
They could be, what is their record now? They just hit their 40th win, so they're 40-32.
Yeah.
And it does feel like they could be 44-28.
Yeah.
And that's really frustrating if you're a Suns fan. I think the reason so many people are frustrated over the past week, though, is not just the conversation of how can they be better in the fourth quarter, because they can be better in the fourth quarter. Obviously, they could be sharper, and there are things that Jordan Ott could do better, slightly with his rotations, I guess. I think a lot of it, though, exposes a more broad anxiety that Suns fans might be feeling now about, okay, this is a good team, right? They've proven that they're a good team. how do they become a great team?
Yeah.
And I think when you're in this particular tier that they're in of a good team, you struggle in situations like this. You know, Devin Booker is a top 15 player, whatever, in the NBA, but he's not like, you know, Luka. He's not Shea, and he's not one of those.
Nobody's Luka right now.
He's not Luka or Shea or one of these guys that you can just count on. And a lot of the options around him for how do you find offense late in a game are really spotty given the current roster construction. So how do you position them better going forward? That's going to be one of the big challenges for this team. Like in theory, if you're not going to have a Jalen Green or Dylan Brooks, I suppose, who blossoms into, like, if Jalen Green next year is 25 points and 5 assists per game, then that's, you know, problem solved right there. Beyond that, though, like, another thing that you could do is just, okay, how do you have capable, like, playmakers at every size, at every position? That doesn't mean, you know, 6 guys who all average 6 assists per game, but everyone for their role needs to be a more capable guy at putting the ball on the floor and making a decision than what you would expect given their usage, while also having the athleticism of some of these guys like Rasheer Fleming and Ryan Dunn and Malawach. Having both is a massive luxury in the NBA. And so I don't know, dude, there's going to continue to be a lot of quirks. We're constantly forcing Jordan Ott, even if he does have a healthy roster, and we hope they do get healthy, into these decisions of, for this game, for these 5 moments, am I going to go speed and athleticism and size, or am I going to go with the guy who I know knows how to play basketball? And that's difficult.
Mm-hmm. Am I going to go James Jones ball or not?
Yeah. Literally, am I for these 5 minutes, do I go Rasheer Fleming or do I go Royce O'Neal? Do I go Kaman Malawach or do I, well, that one is probably more just like you go Oso Ighodaro no matter what. But like Rasheer Fleming or Royce O'Neal.
Yeah. I mean, or Rasheer Fleming at center is also a possibility in some of these games. Like, right. I think Oso Ighodaro, who, by the way, only had 6 points tonight, but has been playing much better in the last few games. I think the start of him starting once Mark Williams went out was a little bit rough. He couldn't score. He wasn't doing much defensively. Was kind of in his head a little bit, but the last few games he was in the double-digit scoring and was pretty good against Milwaukee in particular. But today I thought he was great too. He had 3 blocks today, so his defense was very good today against Toronto. But yeah, he has earned the right to be out there. You know, obviously, look, it's kind of dumb guy analysis, right? But like Booker has to hit shots.
Of course. None of it, like 4 for 17 is really bad. And here's the other thing. Like, because obviously we have our biases. I've thought about this. We have, I'm sure, this implicit or conscious or unconscious bias for Devin Booker and the way we talk about him compared to the way we talk about Jalen Green.
Of course.
Because Jalen Green is new and Devin Booker is not. But if we are going to come on the podcast and dunk on Jalen Green a little bit after he has a 3 for 17 shooting night, then we have to be willing to do the same when Devin Booker shoots 4 for 17.
It's true.
Because it's literally just as catastrophic a performance.
I mean, admittedly, the assists are different, right? That's the real difference with Devin Booker. He's much more likely to create offense for other guys. So there is something that helps to boost his game, even when his shooting is off. But in those moments in the fourth quarter, like the whole point is to score. Like that's literally all you have to do. That's all you have to do. And that means the decision you make when you're shooting, those shots have to go in. And if you're not shooting, they have to be passes to guys who are capable of scoring in those moments. And like to me, if Devin Booker is drawing 2 guys and passing to Jordan Goodwin and, you know, the ball swings and it's either Jalen Green, Jordan Goodwin, and Colin Gillespie shooting an open shot and they lose, well, you made the right play. Like, that's how you won all year. You made the right play. That's fine. But if you're taking shots on 2 guys and they're just bricking entirely, it's just not good basketball, and there's really no excuse for it. And by the way, another part of it is they let these other teams go on runs because they get in their heads when they miss these shots when they're not playing well offensively, and they're leaving guys open for 3. They're leaving the rim. Transition defense fails a little bit.
Transition defense is a huge recurring thing that's happened in some of these fourth quarters. Jalen Green has been a problem there, right? But it's not just him, but his
transition defense is terrible. You're right.
It's not just him, but it's one of those areas where it's like you notice when a guy is struggling to score, fine, miss your shots. Get back on defense, though. Don't screw us over twice. And
Yeah.
so it's happened with Jalen. It's happened with Book, and those are areas. Also, the officiating has been a big
That's a
thing
huge thing,
over
yeah.
these past the 5 games that they lost in a row. They get in their heads because they don't get the calls that
Especially
they want,
Booker.
and especially Booker starts to melt down.
Jalen a little bit too, though, because a lot of times when Jalen's not running back on defense, it's because he's complaining.
Yeah.
And I do think Devin Booker is a bad example in that regard, because Booker has lately been less likely to run back in transition when he's complaining to the refs.
Mm-hmm.
And, in some ways it's like, well, Booker's earned that right, but in other ways, you should have a team where nobody has that right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to see Kevin Durant doing it last year. I don't want to see Devin Booker doing it this year. I don't want to see Jalen Green doing it ever.
Right. You don't want to see Luka Doncic doing it if you're a Lakers fan.
100%,
Even if you've won 10 games in a row, you don't want to
But
see
he's
your
scoring
star
40
player.
a game. It is different,
Yeah.
It is different when it's him because he's probably a little bit more tired than Jalen Green. Like today, there was a moment today in this game where there was a turnover, Jalen Green turnover, and he just kind of dogs it back. He doesn't run back. And then at the same time on the right wing is Colin Gillespie full court sprinting to try and stop the fast break. And these guys, Colin played less today, but Colin's been playing a lot of minutes too.
You know what there is too? There's the contract year effect on that.
The contract year effect, and also something even more important, which is the Timeline's Dan Marley Hustle Player of the Year, which is on the line. Colin Gillespie's in the lead, but it's on the line. It's no guarantee. Jordan Goodwin can catch up, and then Colin Gillespie, it's in the back of his head. He's thinking about it every game. Every time he gets a steal, every time he runs back in transition.
Colin looked in my direction at one point tonight, and I was hoping we would lock eyes just so that I could mouth to him, "You are leading. You're in the lead," because I wanted him to know that rest assured he is in the lead.
And if Jordan Goodwin looked at you, you just shake your head sadly. Sorry, man. Sorry. You have a chance. You have a chance. We'll talk about
this.
It's
It's what's keeping them up at night. I know that
for sure. And maybe we need to. Has Jalen Green gotten on the board at all?
I don't think so.
I don't think he has.
I don't think Jalen Green has a
only
point
player.
Yet. Unless you count CJ Huntley.
No, we don't count that. He just played his first minutes today.
Has Isaiah Livers gotten on the board? I actually
I think he
has. I think Isaiah Livers.
I think he got a third place one
I think
week.
we got Isaiah Livers 1 point 1 week. So yeah, it's tough.
So maybe we need to get Jalen Green on there so he starts working a little harder. Someone's got to get in his ear about that. Fourth quarter struggles ultimately, if they have these same types of struggles when they're fully healthy and they have a bunch of veterans who make better decisions the other thing that I should mention is when you have Jordan Goodwin out there and Devin Booker's out there trying to get space, they're not going to guard Jordan Goodwin, but they will guard Royce O'Neal if he's in that space. Right. And then Devin Booker has a lot more space to score. And if they come off of Royce O'Neal, then it's a guaranteed 3 half the time when it's Royce O'Neal. So it's not just getting these guys that have the experience out there. It's also that defenses play them differently because they're more of a threat to score in those scenarios. They have a deeper bag to pull from in those scenarios. So if they have the same type of fourth quarter struggles when they're healthy, that's a much, much bigger deal.
What if I told you that next year, Rasheer Fleming will be pulling down as many offensive rebounds as Jordan Goodwin? His spacing will be as good as Royce O'Neal's. They'll be guarding him just as intensely at the 3-point line. He'll be getting as many blocks as Kaman
But Jordan
Malawach.
Goodwin will still be starting at power forward.
It's possible. I'm really on cloud 9 with Rasheer, if you can't tell. I think most Suns fans are, but he feels like he could be something.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that the Suns believe it. We're going to hear that soon. One of these national podcasters are going to say, I've heard from the Suns that they really believe in Rasheer Fleming. They really believe he has a high ceiling. It'd be interesting to hear, Truth Serum style, how they feel about, Jalen Green or Kaman Malawach, because
Mark Williams, too.
Mark Williams, too. Yeah, we're going to find out with Mark Williams, though. That's the one thing. It's because he's up for a contract.
I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because we have, all summer to talk about this, but, it's a really weird summer for the Suns. Colin Gillespie and Jordan Goodwin and Mark Williams all being free agents. Dylan Brooks maybe being extension eligible.
Extension eligible, but still signed for another season.
Signed for another year. 2 years, 1 year,
maybe 2 years.
I want to say it's just one more year for Dylan Brooks, might be. And that's why he's extension eligible. And then Jalen Green, who they feel like they're kind of building up a sample size of what he looks like now. They could go in all sorts of directions, and I don't know which one they're going to take yet.
He's signed next year. But I mentioned this to you, as much as you want to talk about the future of the Suns, which every Suns fan on the internet immediately started talking about the future of this team as soon as they went on a 5-game losing streak, which, by the way, so did I. It's a natural to start thinking about the future of this team when they start struggling this poorly, this badly. But I mentioned it to you. We were talking about it earlier today. The All-Star Game's in Phoenix next year. They are not going to field a bad team. They're going to attempt to be great next year.
You're right.
And I'm really kind of curious what that looks like for this new regime of the Phoenix Suns. Are they patient? Do they believe in these guys enough to allow them another year to roll? Do they think Colin Gillespie has another level in him? Do they think Jalen Green has another level in him? Will they sacrifice, Kaman Malawach essentially to be good now? I'm really curious about that.
It obviously depends on what the offers are, but it is one of the things I worry about is would they just forego this kind of natural growth process of some of the guys on the team like Kaman Malawach, Rasheer Fleming, or would they take these chips as they believe that they become more valuable and kind of say, let's go all in and try and make a push in the West? It's going to depend also on how they do in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You feel like you can take down San Antonio now?
I'm not going to say that.
5 games? Is that what it's going to take? I think we got him in 5.
All right. I'll appreciate it. Okay. How many $2 hot dogs have you had?
Only 2.
Only 2?
Through 2 games.
A couple of tacos.
A couple of $2 tacos.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have an ice cream sandwich yet.
All right. We got another game.
All right.
We're going to have to get ice cream sandwiches.
Deal.
Take down a couple ice cream sandwiches. Anything else that stood out at the games for you?
Games are just really fun. Anything else that stood out?
We got free hats.
We did get free hats
Yeah.
for women's
empowerment.
Women's empowerment night.
Sam flew here for that specifically.
I did. Those hats are really nice. We tried to get the bucket hats tonight for.
I was like, we'll be fine. We'll get there 45 minutes early.
Yeah,
and we weren't. They
didn't
were
get 'em.
gone. They were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have another chance to see what's available at the next one. I'm excited.
Huge game against Denver, by the way.
Yeah.
Not really huge because we're not going to catch them anymore. If we're being honest, we're 4 games behind them now.
I haven't checked like how mathematically possible it is. It seems very unlikely.
Very
They'd
unlikely.
have to go on a massive losing streak, and we'd have to go on a win streak. So that seems unlikely.
More so, just important because is that nationally televised?
NBC and Peacock both.
Okay.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games left, I believe, of the season. So very little time to make up anything. I imagine they are locked into that 7th seed. But look, the reality of this team is if they're locked into they clearly have to win some games to stay in the 7th seed. Portland is, on their heels. The Clippers, whoever's back there trying to make their way up to that spot. But this team, they got to win games. They got to play well. What you'd like to see before the end of the season, some games with them fully healthy, some games where they can start to get their chemistry fully healthy. Luckily, Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green have played together before, so there's some level of chemistry there already. But they haven't played a lot of games together for this team.
No, they've played 3?
Yeah,
6,
just a few.
Maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
So we'd like to see them play a little bit together with Devin Booker and see how that looks. Mark Williams back, Oso Ighodaro back in his proper spot, which is backup 5. And then, see what the rotations look like now that these guys have gotten a little more minutes. How much minutes does Rasheer Fleming get when everyone's playing, when Dillon Brooks is playing, when, maybe Ryan Dunn only gets 5 minutes a game, maybe he doesn't play at all. We got to figure that out.
Out again. Yeah.
We got to figure that out before the playoffs. And
theoretically, if everyone was healthy on Tuesday, I know we said you should keep playing Rasheer. Would you play Ryan Dunn over Highsmith and Coffey?
I don't know.
You play Highsmith?
Yeah, probably. I mean, he's been really good. But, maybe Ryan Dunn has earned the opportunity to come off the bench first, and then you just make a decision based on how he's playing. Like Aaron Gordon is back. Peyton Watson
is back, yeah.
You have Jamal Murray.
Who's had a really good season, by the way. I've often been a Jamal Murray hater, and this is...
No, he's a rookie. He's his first All-Star season. He's a real star now.
This has been an outstanding... I really didn't think that Jamal Murray had 25 points per game or whatever it is in him. I know that inflation exists, but still.
He's been awesome. Yeah, that's one guy that... Yeah, maybe Ryan Dunn will guard him, actually. Maybe that's the right guy to have on someone like Jamal Murray because Highsmith is not exactly who you want on that quick of a guard.
Maybe. I don't know if there's any right answer for Jamal Murray.
It's tough with Ryan Dunn, too, because he still fouls a lot.
I would put Jordan Goodwin on Jokic
I think they should actually do that. I'm not joking.
I think they
There's no good
actually might.
options. I think they will. Like
Yeah,
I think there
yeah.
will be possessions where because that's kind of what that's what they did in OKC against Jokic, right? They put Alex Caruso on him, and then they just have other guys roaming the rim, and Jokic has been a poor jump shooter this year. His shooting has not quite been what it's been before. So if you have an extra defender in the paint, which would be Oso Ighodaro in this case, then yeah, you keep him out of the paint. You hope he shoots jump shots over the smaller defenders, and you could poke him. Get him annoyed a little bit, but all right. Anything else before we go?
Don't think so. Does anyone? Let's see. I'm in Phoenix for a few more days, going to the Denver game. If anyone has any burning spot recommendations,
There you go.
I'm going to throw out my niche interests. I know Kai's already whipping up a list of 200 spots for me in my Discord. But if anyone other than him wants to contribute to that, let me know. Otherwise, I've been to Phoenix before. I love this city.
Went to the art museum today.
We did. I feel like I've done all of the basic touristy things at this point, the basic things. So like if you're going to hit me up with recommendations,
Get niche.
Where's, best Mexican? I wouldn't mind that.
I got some examples for that, but yeah, I'll hear it.
That's
I'll
the problem
hear 'em
is
out.
Mike.
I'll hear him
I'm
out.
with Mike, and he's
Yeah.
a little bit too opinionated about coffee and Mexican food. So
Yeah,
I feel like
those are my two expertise.
he's not going to trust you on those two things.
Yeah, my two expert. Yeah, I have a little bit of each of those every day, so yeah, I'm pretty good at that. But all right, thanks everyone for listening. Yeah, if you want to join, by the way, our Patreon, we're gonna have a Patreon episode after the Denver game, sometime maybe Wednesday night or possibly Thursday if we do something else. But yes, you can join at patreon.com/thetimeline, hear that one, and hear all of our future Patreon episodes. Only $6 a month for that one.
Where did Oso Ighodaro say his favorite Mexican food was?
Rubio's.
Yeah, you told me. I don't know. But
Everyone tweet at Sam and tell him to try Rubio's.
you told me that was the worst possible thing he could have said.
It's like worse Chipotle.
Yeah.
It's just like it's not good. It's
But
like, he grew up here. He's got no
from here.
excuses.
He's
Yeah.
from here. He
no
should know
excuses.
better.
No excuses. All right, thanks everyone. Back soon.